You said NASDAQ wanted to have ESG type parameters.
For any company that lists on NASDAQ, they say you have to tell us race, gender, and sexual
NASDAQ
diversity.
said that, right?
Yeah,
NASDAQ
for the companies that are listed and traded on the NASDAQ.
So NASDAQ is a company. It's a public company now, but it has its own CEO. It has its own board of directors. So they made the determination that it would be in the best interest of their business, right? They went to the SEC to get comments, correct? Right. The SEC came back and expanded those. The NASDAQ said that works counter to what our goal is.
Yeah, but this is not for NASDAQ as a business. This is NASDAQ's listing standards for any company that's trading on the NASDAQ.
Right, but they're a business who gets to determine. Yeah, NASDAQ competes with the New York Stock Exchange.
But the point
NASDAQ competes.
But the point is, if it was actually, of course they compete with a different exchange, so people go to the New York Stock Exchange or a new exchange that would form.
Or no exchange, yeah.
But the reality is, do you believe that NASDAQ's own, because this is all in the name of DI, do you think that their goal for every company, right? You have how many companies listed on the NASDAQ? 1,000 companies, whatever it is. Hundreds of companies.
There's only like 5,000 total public companies now, and that's a problem.
Right,
but that's a different conversation.
Actually, we do make it a lot harder to be a public company. Let's say hundreds of companies on the NASDAQ, right? Let's say hundreds of companies on the NASDAQ.
A couple thousand, yeah.
So in that case, why would, for those let's say a couple thousand companies on the NASDAQ, why would it be the case that only those three parameters of capital D diversity are interesting? Race, gender, and sexual orientation for all 2,000 companies, as opposed to NASDAQ could have done this, which is to say that provide what type of diversity advances your own business's mission and provide that disclosure to investors. That's not what they said, which suggests to me, and I think to a lot of people who have issues with this movement, that it's not really just about making each business run better. It's also about accomplishing some other social objective that has nothing to do with the business. And maybe it's a good social objective, but it's still you got to admit it's
you're contradicting yourself. You're contradicting yourself in so much of this, Vivek. You are, because NASDAQ is a company that's trying to make as much money as possible and to compete with the New York Stock Exchange, exchanges overseas and not listing at all, just being over the counter, right? They, in their own wisdom, for better or worse, like every other CEO and board of directors, decided, I can't speak for them, that by doing this, that will give more incentive for companies to list with us.
So that's a fair response. That's a fair response.
That is the only response.
Let's continue pulling on the string. Let's keep pulling on the string, though. Let's keep pulling the string, because where the story ends is it ends with the hand of government. That's right. So who then owns these public companies? Who owns these companies? Who are the top shareholders of most public companies? Large asset managers like BlackRock, Vanguard, index fund managers. Okay. So who are the clients of these index fund managers? The largest clients of these index fund managers are none other than the likes of CalPERS. You'll know this, right? CalPERS is California's pension fund system, New York's pension fund system, et cetera. So here's what I'm surmising now is not what I'm saying now is not surmising. It's not conspiracy. There's just hard reality. CalPERS, the state of New York's pension funds, the pension funds that invest with the large asset managers, effectively have said that you don't get to manage our money unless you adopt certain of these pre-specified commitments. Now, those large pools of capital, you're talking about $500 billion in the case of CalPERS, bigger than that even. Those are not pure market actors, right? Those are arms of the government. Those are organs of the government. So when
BlackRock, you're saying BlackRock?
I'm saying CalPERS.
And CalPERS.
I'm saying CalPERS.
CalPERS, a state government.
CalPERS is absolutely an arm of the government, right?
There has recently been a Supreme Court decision, and there is a whole party of people saying all decisions go back to the state, and that's the way it should be,
that's right? But regardless of my point is, you've got government.
But I know that's not your point. I just had to throw that in there.
And I'm a big fan of going deep on the recent Supreme Court decisions. We may have to do that another day because that's like a whole hour discussion. But the point is, you have government actors that are managing large swaths of money that tell these asset managers that are then bound by those constraints. So then when BlackRock votes their shares at each of those public companies, so here's a particular example. In 2022, they voted in favor of, this is actually a great example to respond to your argument, Mark. In 2022, Apple was asked by some sort of social activist group that held a couple of shares to adopt racial equity audits, to tell the investors, just tell the investors what they want to know. Apple's board said this is nonsense. Okay, it's going to be a waste of our time and money. It's going to create litigation risk. It's going to restrict our ability to hire for the very best. No, we, the board of directors of Apple, don't want to do it. Nonetheless, BlackRock and State Street and a number of other asset managers vote for that proposal anyway, after which Apple's board of directors says, okay, all right, well, we got to reconsider now, do the racial equity audit. to me, the idea that that is just a private business making decisions without external influence, because BlackRock's voting that way in part because their clients, like CalPERS and the state of New York, demand they behave that way, yet those clients aren't really profit motivated alone, they're also solving for governmental objectives, suggests that a lot of this basis for corporations doing it, you're saying that that just reveals that it's in their best interest, I don't think is actually true.
This is America.
Because they're being pressured to do it by government actors.